Hello, good people, and welcome to Let's Live, Love, and Learn with Khalil Hill. I go by the name of Khalil Judah Hill, and I am excited once again to share a part of myself with all of you. But first, let's go ahead and get that disclaimer out of the way. What I'm about to share with you are my thoughts and my beliefs that I've accumulated over the last 20 to 25 years on my spiritual journey. There's going to be things I share with you that you're going to agree with, and there are going to be things that I share that you're not going to agree with, and that's 100% okay. I encourage every last one of you to use your own discernment when listening to this content, because, like I say, I want you to contemplate those concepts that resonate with you. But at the same time, if there's something that, you're just not feeling, leave it behind. It may down the road, it may make sense to you, or it may click with you and you may agree with it, and maybe it never will. And that's okay as well. I'm sharing these life lessons not to get you to adopt any of them, right? Not to convince you to believe them, but to more so inspire you to seek your own life lessons in order to, maybe find some that enrich your lives. Ultimately, this creative expression of mine is to help people feel a little less alone and a little bit more loved as they continue their journey back to the heart of the Creator. Now, let's kind of roll into a quick recap of the last video. We talked about, we continued the discussion of Jiddu Krishnamurti, the lessons that I learned from him and his book, Total Freedom. We talked about how Krishnamurti believed that we were too dependent on others when it came to our spiritual development and growth. Um, we talked about how that dependence on others and allowing authorities to dictate our choices, behaviors, and our worth can have negative consequences. That realization led me to the life lesson that we should question and challenge every authority in our lives. And so today we're going to continue that deep dive into Krishnamurti's teachings and into total freedom. And today's life lesson is to examine every choice and experience to reveal your unique truth and identity. And so we're going to start off this, I guess, discussion with a quote from Total Freedom. It's probably one of my favorite quotes by Krishnamurti. Here it goes. There is that truth which is most holy, most sacred, that which man has sought from time immemorial. That truth does not lie in any temple, in any mosque, in any church, and it has no path to it except through one's own understanding of oneself, inquiring, studying, learning. Then there is that which is eternal. And so, I actually forgot about that quote until, I came across it again in preparation for this video. Um, it's one of those, it's very powerful and truly I can relate to it because I pretty much have lived my life by it for some decades now. And so after I walked away from Christianity, as I've said, quite a few times now, I studied all these different, religions, these different faiths. And there was always something missing within them. Like it was something that uh, something always just didn't quite fit. And so I was unable to truly commit myself to any one particular religion because, like I said, there always just seems to be something off. Or something that was missing. So what I decided to do is that I was just going to, I'm just going to learn as much as I can, glean whatever knowledge and wisdom I can from it. And what I don't really vibe with or get, I'm just going to leave it behind. Maybe it'll make sense in the future. And so that's what I did. And it wasn't long before I kind of realized that, you know what? A lot of things that I was learning or being taught in Christianity that kind of felt like didn't quite make sense or that felt like something was missing, all of a sudden I would read a passage or text in a different or religious book or text that all of a sudden made that concept make more sense that I was learning in Christianity. For an example, and this is going to be, a little controversial, and I'm not going to dive into this video, but the whole concept of resurrection, or no, I'm sorry, reincarnation is something that you don't really read about it or hear about it or talk about it much in the Christian faith, but is prevalent in other religions. And then when you look into, deeper into some texts, maybe some of the texts that aren't necessarily recognized by the church, you realize that, reincarnation actually was a part of, the early Christian beliefs and faiths. And so, and it's one of those things that it makes things make a lot more sense when you incorporate that concept into the teachings. But getting a little ahead of myself there, but I just wanted to provide at least one example of what I mean as far as, reading other texts and diving into other religions and faiths and learning things that actually made things make more sense in a different faith or a different religion. And so, uh, it's one of those things that, as I kind of piece these things together, these puzzle pieces from different faiths and different religions, it was almost like there was this one holistic truth that somehow was broken up and divided amongst the different tribes and populations of humanity. And it's like each of these different tribes took their fragment of truth, their holy, fragment or portion of this truth, and they developed their own image of God from it. You know, and as I kind of sat back and thought about that possibility or how plausible something like that could be, it's one of the things that it kind of made sense, to a very, a much smaller degree. It's much like our different, relationships that we have with our family, our circle of friends and acquaintances, or even the relationships we have with people at our career or a professional setting. Even within that family, you have the perception or your identity that your wife associates with you, the characteristics that she attributes to you. So whether that's being a loving partner, financial provider, a dedicated father, you can have, your friends who can think that you're honest, genuine, an authentic guy, reliable, but somebody who's absolutely horrible when it comes to keeping in touch and reaching out, especially over long distances. I am terrible at that. And then, I had associates, I think back who probably see me as, this creative, competitive guy who was empathetic. And then those associates who probably weren't my biggest fans probably would have called me micromanaging, cold, and maybe even aloof as well. And so here's the thing, all of their perceptions of me would probably, I would say, were accurate to a certain degree, right? I think that given the varying experiences that we have with people and the interactions we have with them, and also based on our level of connection with them, right? The amount of time we spent with them, you know, any one of their perceptions of me, I can't necessarily say that they were wrong. And I think that that's partly because of the fact that with each person that we're interacting with, once again, our level of connection to that person uh, has a lot to do what is drawn out of us, how empathetic we are with that person, how cold we may be with that person, how close we may get to them, or how standoffish we may be from them, if there's a level of distrust there. And so it's you can't say any of them are wrong as far as their perception of me, but I think it's more indicative of not necessarily who I am, as much as it's indicative of the relationship between us. And so, uh, while there are perceptions that, all of their perceptions we can say are somewhat accurate, at the same time, I can also say that all of their perceptions of me are inaccurate as well, because none of them fully capture, all aspects of my identity or my personality. Because I think that who we are is not necessarily something that's, etched in stone. It's not hardened. It's not objective. It's more fluid. It's more, I guess you could say, amorphous. And I believe that's exactly kind of what we've done with God or the concepts of God. I think most of the world's religions and faith that they've taken their fragments of the truth um, of God and with the limited experiences that they've had with God and fashioned this very idyllic image or concept of God, which they worship. And here's the thing, um, is one of the reasons why I don't and won't debate anyone concerning the validity of their beliefs, because I truly believe that there are truths about the Creator, about God, in every last one of the religions and faiths throughout the world. And so I will never be the one to say, you know what you believe is not true. Now, I may have my own journey, and this is essentially what all these videos are about, me sharing my specific journey, but I know how important it was for me to believe what I believed 20 years ago. It was very important for me to believe what I believed 10 years ago. And as I, progress, through experience and through observing and, studying and learning and through revelation and epiphanies, I've come to the point where I am today. But that doesn't delegitimize, the beliefs and how important they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And so, it's one of those things that uh, while I can't sit up here, I can acknowledge all of those major faiths and all those major religions and the beliefs that everybody has as having elements of truth, right? Of the creator, that their beliefs are valid. At the same time, it's also one of the reasons why, I felt like I had to chart my own path, towards the creator, because I also felt that there wasn't a single one of those faiths or religions that captured the infinite and total nature of the creator, right? Like there was something always missing. And so I felt like I had to chart my own path in order to find what I felt like was missing, in my belief, in my concept, in my understanding and relationship with the creator. So that takes me back, to Krishnamurti's words, right? That there is a truth most holy, not found in the temple or mosque or church. It has no path except through one's own understanding of self, inquiring, studying, and learning. And so, in one of the chapters in Total Freedom called Freedom from the Known, is near the end of the book, Krishnamurti says that you have to be your own teacher and your own disciple. You have to question everything that man has accepted as valuable, as necessary. And so, what does that mean, right? And how can you be your own teacher and your own disciple? That kind of sounds, pretty tough to do, right? Well, I have an idea of what he may have meant by that. And there's an old adage. I say old, but we use it all the time. It's an old current adage, okay? And that is that experience is the best teacher. So after I untethered myself, from any particular religion or faith, I began to realize how intentional and evident that the Creator's influence and guidance were in my life. Everyday occurrences that I shrugged off as being coincidence or happenstance suddenly carried greater meaning and were used to get my attention and to lead me towards spiritual epiphanies, right? And so, just as indisputable and obvious as a pastor delivering a fiery sermon from the pulpit, I could see the work of God and the curated lessons being administered to me through experiences. And so, while it's not exactly, me being my own teacher or my own disciple, it was me placing trust solely in the unfolding experiences of life and no longer giving that authority to any earthly body anymore. And so uh, each experience that I examined, along with the lessons that I learned, revealed more of my own unique truth and how it connected to and relates to all the Bible truths of everyone else around me, right? Um, but more importantly, I realized they also uncovered a little more of the truth and identity of the Creator. So, what I'm about to say, I'm going to put it out there right now. What I'm about to say is going to be pretty controversial, and it's going to require some unpacking, which I will try to do. But I feel like now is the time to introduce this. So here we go. Uh, I truly believe that we were never meant to all have the same belief and identify with one singular truth, because we need to believe different things in order to achieve different things in this life. We need to accept diverse truths to fulfill our very distinct purposes that each of us have, because all of them serve to evolve our collective consciousness. No, there was a lot of words. And so and let me back it up and try to break it down a little bit for you. So starting off, so dictionary.com defines belief as a principle, a proposition, idea, etc., accepted as true. Uh, Belief is one of the most powerful motivators that we have as human beings, right? So, what we believe determines what we say, what we don't say, the actions that we take, the actions that we don't take, and more importantly, the things that we think and the things that we don't think, right? It's all kind of uh, beholden to our beliefs. And so our beliefs, they greatly influence the experiences that we have as well. And so it determines how we may internalize the experiences and what, if anything, that we learn or extract from them as well. So it may sound cold, it may sound very calculating, but belief can be an incredible tool to get us to achieve certain goals or tasks throughout our lives. And that's very important to keep in mind. It's something that I don't think that many of us can really, argue against. It seems pretty, basic on the face of it, but I don't think we really understand or understand the depth of how belief impacts our lives on a very not only a daily basis, but a minute by minute basis as well. So that leads me back to that statement that we were never meant to all have the same belief and identify with one singular truth, because we need to believe different things and accept diverse truths to fulfill our distinct purposes in this life, which all serve to evolve our collective consciousness. So if we look at any complex organism or organization, in order for it to maintain its health and to thrive, it requires an ecosystem of diversity to complete specialized tasks. And so, the best example that I could probably give is for any large organization. So, I work for a company that will remain unnamed, but I work for a company, and this company is very reliant and needs me to be a functional expert in the job that I do, right? And so they depend on me to do my job very well within this department. Because if I do it well and I'm successful at it, guess what? It helps, the company as a whole be successful, and for that company to thrive. I'm very much dependent and hope that the people in the other departments are just as much of a functional expert in what they're doing and the jobs that they're accomplishing, because they're also helping the company be successful, and as a whole for the company to grow. And it's something that, on the face of it, you're like, oh, duh. Yeah, of course, that's the way things work. But it's one of those things I don't think we realize how I truly believe and how, it seems that that's the way the world works. And that may even be the way that our collective consciousness evolves and how it grows as well. It's through us believing different things, accomplishing different things, doing different things that's creating all of these, like these infinite experiences that we partake in, that allows us to grow and develop and for us all to evolve collectively. And so Each of us are provided a unique set of circumstances at birth that includes our sex, our race, culture, economic status, and a host of other variables as well. And they really set that foundation of differentiation. Um, and afterwards, we go through our most formative years of life from early childhood to early adulthood, molded by countless beliefs. And those beliefs determine how we accept, interpret, and utilize the experiences that are introduced into our lives. And each successive experience that we have, that we live through, and every choice that we make forms our identity. It reveals our purpose and uncovers our unique truth. And those three things are inextricable, and they're linked to one another. And so what does that mean? What am I getting at? Right? I'm saying all these things to you, but what am I getting at? So let me put it simply here. I believe that the creator forms each of us uniquely and for a specific purpose. What we believe, how we engage the world around us, and what we identify as our truth were all born from our distinctly curated experiences. Those experiences are imbued with a wealth of wisdom that's being fed to us, fed to our souls for their development and for their growth. And so every choice we make, every experience that we have fashions our identity, much like a movie is comprised of a reel containing thousands upon thousands of still frames. Our identity is comprised of all of those choices and all of those experiences, much like that movie reel, right? And what binds all of those together to create our identity is a conceptual narrative that we have the power to create for ourselves, or we may give that power, to someone else to create for us. And so that is why I've chosen, faith and love. I talked about this in, a video or two ago, maybe, that one of the things that I chose to take with me from Christianity was faith and love that I found within the church. And I realized that they weren't exclusive to any religion, that I could take those with me on my journey. And that's what I've chosen to do. I've chosen through uh, every experience that I encounter, every choice that I make is always through this filter of faith and love, because love is, it's like an energetic connector and a binder of disparate things. So those are my chosen filters because it allows me to form a cohesive, healthy, and whole identity because I'm able to truly assimilate everything that I encounter throughout my life. And so, with that understanding and that acceptance of our own truth and unique identity, we concurrently embrace another aspect and truth of our Creator. And so I'm going to actually, believe it or not, I just found this quote from Khalil Gibran on this topic, and I wanted to share it with you because I think it kind of brings home the point here. Knowledge of the self is the mother of all knowledge. So it is incumbent on me to know myself, to know it completely, to know its minutiae, its characteristics, its subtleties, and its very atoms. Ooh, I love that quote. All right, so that is today's life lesson and video. So, in closing, here is your question or questions. Um, do you believe that our unique and varied life experiences have an impact on which faith or belief system we choose to adopt? Does it make more sense for there to be one single faith or belief system that everyone should adhere to? Or does it make more sense for a diverse array of beliefs, religions, and faiths to emerge that appeal to differing segments of the population? As always, I am excited and would love to read your comments, your answers in the comments below. And I'm sure that the community would love to read them as well. And before I part, here is the quote of the day or the message to my son, and that is each one of us is meticulously crafted to comprise the exquisite mosaic of God. So when we seek to understand and learn to embrace our own unique creation, it is not an exercise of vanity, but an act of praise and appreciation for the one infinite creator. Thanks so much for spending this 15 to 20-ish minutes with me. As always, it's truly a joy to share a part of myself with all of you. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Know that you are never alone and that you are always loved. Peace out.